Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it is, at whatever day it is, because who knows, you could be listening to this sat on the toilet for all I care, or reading the newspaper, or pretending that your boss isn't seeing you right now as you're watching this on your work computer in the middle of the office in the middle of the day. It doesn't matter, because we're thankful that you're here. Today, we've got two people here from different perspectives, different backgrounds, to talk about this, how we communicate with people in different scenarios as well. There's this, where we do this to you, we talk to you and wonder what you're thinking as we do podcasts or we do live events on things like LinkedIn. And then there's training, where we stand in front of a group of people, or as Matt, our guest today, had the other day, just sat there on Teams all day looking at those little nameplates because everybody had their video turned off. The scenarios are different. The skill sets are different. Some people have skill sets in some areas, some have skill sets in others. Some don't have any skill at all. And we're going to unpick all of it now with the help of Marianne Mills and Matt Gupwell. Thanks for being here.
That's all right. Thank you for asking me again.
No problem at all. Where should we start with this massive subject of why people perhaps, let's say that, should or shouldn't be doing some of this stuff? You know, let's dive into a little bit of history of what people here have done, and maybe we can unpick it from there. So, Marianne, tell us first, right? I mean, you've been doing this sort of thing now for a little while because we've been doing it together. But what was can you remember like the first time you ever had to stand up in front of anybody and start delivering anything?
Oh gosh, delivering training. The teaching experience was quite different, but in front of people, I guess, kind of as you do, when I did my placement for my PGCE, we probably had to do a micro teach at some point. And I think I would have found that horrific. And then my placement was I chose to do it in a prison, because that's obviously what you're...
Obviously. Why wouldn't you choose a prison?
You don't like standing in front of people.
But actually, I don't think I found that too scary. What I found the scariest, and then when I got my first job teaching, that was training carers, and again I was okay with that. The bit I was scared of was when I had to teach in a secondary for sixth formers. Horrific.
Wow.
But I think for me, as time's gone on, the time my teaching got better was when I was teaching people to teach, and that's when the penny dropped with all of it. So I had to be careful. My lecturer, my PGCE, is on here, and he commented on something the other day. But I think when I was learning, it wasn't very alive for me. So I was just doing it, and a lot of what we did was my psychology degree, to be honest. It was the same sort of essays, and I remember thinking, oh, this seems very similar, really. It didn't fit anywhere. And then it was only then when I was teaching, and I remember probably not being very good, to be quite honest. And I was very controlling. It was like I had to get them to do this because we had to get through it, and I was very controlling. Then when I started then I was teaching at blind students, so I think I felt more confident then. And then when I started doing the teacher training, I thought, oh my God, I love this. And I thought, I really love it because actually it's using that developmental bit. And then it was only then when I was working for freelancing for a company, and I remember thinking that obviously I was covering everything we needed to, following a curriculum, which is a lot of trainers don't understand that. That's some of the difference between teachers and trainers, is that you have to cover that stuff. That's probably why I'm quite anal about aims and objectives. So I then was doing that, getting 5-star reviews, but I kept thinking that they would come and observe me and tell me off because I was doing it in my way. And then when COVID stuff hit, I then thought, I'm just going to do it my own way. And it's great because I never feel like I'm being naughty now. I just do it my way.
Love that.
And it's just
No.
sorry.
Said there's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is.
But it was
I
quite.
did it my way. Matt,
But ironically, a lot of it came down to me being diagnosed, and it was all kind of really beautiful in that it then helped me understand how other people learn.
Yeah.
Or don't learn.
I get that. I get that entirely. What about you, Matt? What can you remember the first time you?
I was just trying to think back,
did
actually.
something in front of a group of people?
So the first official, I suppose, training, sharing of information outside of performing, I'd have been 18, 19, I think, working in a restaurant and kind of, right, can you show these new casuals how to do this and take them through the SOPs and how to clean cutlery and yada yada yada. And there's a group of 4 people. That's the first time I did it, but that was, you know, very small. And then I don't think I ever really stopped. Wherever there was a kind of an opportunity to be in front of people, I was. So I ended up teaching new products that I was on the launch team for when I worked for an airline, and we. You know, I did everything from training cabin crew to standing up in front of hundreds of people talking about this new product and delivering what it was and what we put together. And then, I mean, everywhere through customer service, it happened. When I was working at tourist attractions, I was doing customer service training, having never delivered a training course, but, you know, just getting up and giving it a go. But I think the difference for me was, it was, you know, I'm a performer, I suppose, somewhere at heart. It was just another form of performance. It was just another, if I know how to hook people in and engage them and keep them interested, they'll stick with me. If I'm boring, I'll lose them. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's where it started. But I mean, I was supposed to be sent on a trainer course when I was, what would I have been, mid to late 20s. Never happened for some reason. I never got sent on it. I never did it. And I remember sitting in one of those courses going, I could do that. Right. It just felt like that was a natural thing to do. So yeah, I just years and years and years of it. I'm sitting here at 52, but it took me a long time to then go, let's have a 13-year career as a performer. And by the way, that was still teaching people and delivering lots of sort of teaching of various different things to then get to where I am now and have to apply the same skill set, but in a sort of very different way-ish.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, look, I think the performance aspects of this is quite interesting, right? We start off at school, don't we? I mean, we get given a part in the nativity play. I can remember being Joseph in middle school. I think that's one of my earliest recollections of like getting up on a stage in front of the whole school.
Yeah.
And absolutely hating the whole idea. For a start, you know, when you're a certain age, boys aren't meant to touch girls' hands. It's really not a great idea. And there's you cuddling into Mary with, you know, a pretend baby and a couple of other friends of yours looking up, laughing at you as their sheep. You know, it's not a great look. And there's that early start, and then you do other kind of bits and pieces in school, but there's always the cool kids that get all of the good parts, right? And then you get given the parts to the side because you're just not teacher's friend. And so, you know, you do Fiddler on the Roof and you're the Cossack dancer. You know, I actually could Cossack dance when I was young. I couldn't even like bend down to do my laces up on my shoes now, but you know, it was all of that. But there's moments, aren't there? I think there's moments in your life when you realize that you can step up to the plate and do certain things, but you then learn just how far away from being really good at it you are. And in those moments, that's scary. And I guess with that, it's what you then do with that. I think that's the really important point here is do you continue to pursue it and learn, or do you shy away from it because you realize that this is perhaps something you shouldn't do, right? So, I mean,
but don't you think, though, that from the conversations we've had, and I'm sure I've bored you many a time with this, although I think you're on board with me on it, I see quite a lot of resilience with, you said that you can either take it further or not. So there's quite a lot of people that I see that sit quite happily being where they're at, quite comfortable where they're at. And I suppose when I do what I do, I know people roll their eyes and they're like, oh, here she goes again. And I think, well, yeah, here she goes again, because I'm going to be respectful about what you do, and please be respectful about what I do. Actually, what I do is try to provide people with that foundation to be more confident with themselves. So when I hear people talking about imposter syndrome, I know when we talk about people that are neurodivergent, I think there's different, I don't know, types. I don't know if that's the right word of putting it. I think there's a completely different narrative with that. There's other people that say that they're an imposter, and like, I'm going to do a level 5 qualification, and I'm doing it because I know that I need to be confident to be able to sit at tables, to be able to argue my point, make my point, whatever it is, be heard, to not just be seen as a teacher, not be seen as just a trainer, but actually to be able to span, all this. So I'm doing that because I don't want to feel a fraud. I know quite a lot about stuff. So I try to get across to people that all I'm actually doing is trying to provide them with that foundation. But what I think is really sad, and Graham's heard it many times in meetings we've had, is that the pushback we get, I'm pretty sure that what's underneath all of that is fear around education. I genuinely think it's the fear that people carry through from their education. So they carry this armor with them of education was scary for me then. I've winged it, I've blagged it, I've made it through, I'm doing okay, I'm getting work. And I'm saying, yeah, I get that, but you've just told me that you've got imposter syndrome. So if I don't ever go into doing something, I don't agree to do it unless I know I can do it. So
I don't know whether education's scary for people. I'd love you to come in on this in a second, Matt. I don't know whether it's the education bit that's scary for people, or the failing that they had in education that scares
probably
people.
That. Yeah, but they would see that would be wrapped up in that, wouldn't it? So often people would see education as this, like, I don't need to get qualifications, I don't need this and this. And I try to explain to people that the education arguably empowers us. And Matt, you know this because you're one of, I'm going to say few, because I don't actually see a huge amount in that world anymore because I can't for various reasons. But you speak from somebody that gets educated in what you do, because education actually empowers you, doesn't it? It empowers you to be able to have discussions.
No, right. Here's an interesting take on this, though, right? It does. You're doing your level 5 qualification, right? Which means you've done level 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, because I never completed the one I did with you.
Oh, no, this is in a completely different qualification.
No, I know. But what I mean is you've got qualifications that show you've got education. Right? Yeah. I've got nothing apart from my HND in leisure management, and nobody knew what that meant in 1992 and probably still don't now, right? But it certainly doesn't have any relation to this or what I do for a job. So I come with no qualifications, right? And I get told that an awful lot. Well, you got no qualifications. What right have you got to be doing this? What right have you got to be talking about this? Who are you? Right? Okay, fine. But I've got an awful lot of actual career experience broadly in everything from entry level to senior management and they're all in between, and fine. But when I educate myself and I speak about what I've learned, I now have to be very careful to make sure that nobody thinks I'm trying to pick myself as an expert, That's why if ever somebody calls me an expert in neurodiversity, I say, no, I'm not. Now, there are people that would argue with me, people who know me, who I work with, say, yes, you are, and I believe you are, and here's why. I say, hey, that's great. You can believe whatever you want. I am not going to accept that from anyone because I can't be bothered with the pushback of somebody says, but you haven't got a degree, you haven't got a this, you haven't got a that. No, you're right, I haven't. And if that's your definition of whether I should or shouldn't be able to speak about things, that's okay, right? But yes, I do still educate myself. And I say this every time I deliver a training session. Everything I say, I've checked with somebody else who I trust knows more than me.
Yeah.
Right? They've looked at my stuff and they've said yes or no, that you shouldn't be saying that. Therefore, I'm confident in it. Right? Now, that's how
I think a lot of this, though, is you've got integrity. And,
there's a different conversation.
As well as I do, though, that there's a lot of people out there who would claim to know an awful lot, but actually could be quite dangerous. So let's just say, like, I would know how to write a program. I would know how to structure one. I would know how to read a specification, let's just say, and then translate that into something else. And I suppose I guess for me, I have to know that I know. And it's how you know that you know. I guess it's how you know that you know.
Well, what you're saying is that different people need different things behind them in order to say, I now feel confident in myself in order to move forward with that, right? And for some people, that is a formal education. And for other people, that is experience, etc. I think the key to all of this, though, is, are we prepared to keep coming back to, I don't know, right? Or there's still stuff that I can learn. That's the important thing, right? Because I've had situations in my career, and especially if we're going to talk about that kind of performance things, I was given a radio show straight away. I literally walked into a radio station. I did a little bit of training with them. I'd had no experience. I lied about it. This was a bit naughty. I said I could edit, and they said, great, because we need someone to edit. They then trained me how to edit, and then I could edit. Right? So I got in through the doors on a bit of a lie, but they then got us doing other things, and they could see that I had potential to do presenting. So they gave me a radio show. I listened back to those early radio shows. I was dreadful. I really was dreadful. I sucked at it, right? But I kept going, and I put myself with people that could teach me stuff and, if you like, educate me to go, okay, this is something you need to be looking at here. You're saying this all of the time. Have you listened back and worked out which words you're always saying? Have you thought about the tone of your voice? Have you thought about speed control, breathing? Just little things that you pick up from talking to people that know how to do this stuff over a period of time, then becomes the learning. And it's when you stop, this is the dangerous thing for anybody, I think, in any profession. It's when you stop and go, I don't need to learn anymore. That's when it's dangerous, because you do, because every day is a learning day.
But I see this online all the time. People love quoting the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Which is exactly what you're saying. Dunning-Kruger effect literally says the people that claim to know everything know the least. The people that claim not to know probably know the most, but they're humble enough to admit that and say, I will never stop learning. I know a lot, but I'll never stop learning, right? So you could say that's the influencer model. That's the self-proclaimed expert model, right? And you're right. Anyone that says, that's it, I'm at the pinnacle of everything, I know everything, I'm the greatest, whether it's as a trainer or a teacher or a speaker or a presenter or whatever the skill set is, the moment you think you know everything, is the very moment you should stop doing it and have a look at yourself, or somebody should be brave enough to say, now, this is where I get myself in maybe some hot water. I have a reputation for being challenging or difficult, because I will call out when I see things and think, really though? I mean, honestly, you're that good? In your opinion, like you, have you listened back? Have you ever conducted an interview? So it's that thing of, sometimes we need someone to tell us, look, do you know you say that every other sentence? Do you know you can tell when you haven't taken a breath? You can tell when you're not sure. Now, if you're delivering educational content, whatever that is, I suppose the phrase I've used for years is, if people can smell the fear, by which I mean they can smell the I don't know my content.
Oh, teach an A-level group when you don't know what you're talking about, and you know that you've got to.
All right.
You really got to.
I can trump A-level, I reckon. Right. So before, just after COVID, in between this business taking off, I had to make money. You know this, Marianne. I got a job teaching speed awareness courses, naughty driver courses, for one of the 2 companies in the UK that deliver them, right? And I was taught to teach them online and in person, because you had to. Now, anyone can get a speeding ticket of any driving experience, of any background, and you know nothing about the people on your course until they rock up, until they log on, or until they sit in front of you, right? And you have a script to follow that's produced by Highways Agency, that is apparently, as far as you are aware, the correct information, and you have to deliver it parrot fashion. I mean, not that I was very good at that, but that's the drill. You have to deliver it verbatim, because that's the law. And I remember there's a section in that course, and anyone that's been on will know that there's a short video they play, which is about, do you really save any time when you drive at 70 miles an hour versus 80 miles an hour on the motorway? And they show a video and and there's lots of science and lots of numbers in it, right? And I remember about the second or third course in, delivering this online, and everyone's on mute while the video plays. So I play the video, pre-recorded script. Video stops, and I was just about to go into my and this hand goes up, and I said, have you got a comment? He said, yeah, sorry, I should really have told you who I am before I started, shouldn't I? And I went, well, I don't know, should you? He said, yeah, I work for Highways England, and I work in the department that actually produces these videos, and I'm actually a data scientist and a mathematician, and that's wrong. The calculation is actually wrong. And I kind of went, my training is, no, it's not. What do you know? Right? And I sat there and I said, okay, wrong by how much? And he said, substantially. And I said, well, can you explain to me then, if this is the latest version of this course that was released only a couple of months ago, why we haven't got that information? And his response was, because it would make a mockery of the content. He said, at that point, I'm going to say no more. And if it's all right with you, I think I'm going to stay quiet for the rest of the course. Now, that's one where you go, ooh.
Oh, no, because that's a really interesting one, because you had the same approach that I did. And it's why I love what you do. And it's that challenging thing. So I was teaching a guy that worked for the MOD, and we got talking like during the session, and he said, but they only review these slides every year. And I said, what? He said, they only review them every year. And I said, well, how does that work then? Because there's likely to be changes. And he said, yeah, there have been. There's times that there's bits on there that aren't quite right. And I said, what did you do? And he said, well, I just had to carry on. And I said, you do know then that every time you deliver that, you're putting your name to something that is incorrect. Yeah, but I kind of have to. And I said, well, you kind of don't. I said, if you have arguably a responsibility to speak up, to say something. And he did actually go back. He spoke to his manager. It was a new manager, and the manager then, they had a big meeting to change it. And I felt really chuffed. That actually, a lot of what it is, like, I think you're different, and I do think people that are neurodivergent, and I see probably 80% of the people that are in front of me that I teach how to teach, or I put them throughout qualification, either think they are, or they've got those traits. And it is because they want to challenge, and actually going on that course empowers them to have that something to go back and say, I learnt that there, she said that there. And so you would be somebody that would go back and challenge, but a lot of people say, oh, I wanted to, but I didn't know if I should because this person told me not to. And I'm like, well, who the heck are they to say that? Like people saying don't use humour in training. What?
Can I say there's just two things that are going on there, right? If you're looking at it from the sort of neurodivergent point of view as well. One is that kind of neurodivergent mind that's being able to see the start and the end and not have to deal with the bit in the middle, which is fluff, right?
Yeah.
And being and being able to jump to where everybody needs to be, etc. Right? But it's also in the, and it's Matt said in the middle of that, I struggled to kind of keep to that script, and I struggled not to kind of perform to this as well. It's also, I mean, the amount of neurodivergent presenters and script writers and comedians and whatever that I've written with and done work with on radio over the years who have ended up getting chucked off radio stations repeatedly, but then getting pulled back because there's a tension in there, isn't there? We are not, any of us, we are not programmed to sit and listen to just inane facts pushed out with no kind of feeling depth or emotion or, you know, almost disruption to it without losing interest. We lose interest with that very, very quickly, right? And that's why some of the best people at doing radio shows would be the ones that will, like my mate John once did, got kids to throw paint over a politician's car and recorded it and then got chucked off a certain national radio station, because ultimately we're sat there at home going, that's not going to happen. That's happened, right?
Yeah.
And we all are living for those moments of unexpectedness, right? And neurodivergent people are great at bringing the unexpected into the conversation and into the delivery, and it makes it actually makes it more memorable as well for everybody.
But also dealing with the, like what you dealt with, Matt, I know that many people wouldn't have dealt with that. They wouldn't, like, literally they wouldn't have been able to deal with it. They'd have been like, oh my god, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do?
They'd be busy trying to find the mute button.
You'd be like, oh my god, what am I going to do about that? And you were like, well, I've got to own it. Like, literally, I've got to own that. And I think that this is where the whole thing about, I think you've got to be an entertainer to a degree. And I think that's why a lot of neurodivergent people, they don't stress about what we're going to do if, because you just don't even think about it. So you've got people that are entertainers, but just being an entertainer is never going to be enough to teach people, because this is where I think we get into rocky grounds, is that so when I think about, when I deliver programs, and I know I'm really aiming about aims and objectives, but I am, because that's the way of measuring whatever it is we were going to, have people learn what we said that we wanted them to? And I think there's a lot of people out there, sorry to upset you, not sorry, is that they are very good entertainers, but they're not trainers or teachers. So, like, do you see what I mean? That they're very good at delivering.
Yeah, but that comes back to, there are a lot, right, okay. You want to upset people, let's say things that people will be, no, I mean, I don't mean to be divisive. What I mean is this: there are some people working in organisations, and I've been there, who are just thrown into training. Absolutely. Right, go on, you deliver that. Yeah. You've got nobody's taught you how to do it. By the way, there's 10 of your peers for half a day or a day. You've got to keep them interested.
Absolutely, right? Take my hat off to those people.
Right?
I absolutely do.
Now, some people will do that once and go, I loved that, I'll do it again. Some people will say never, right? However, there is a flip side to that. There are also lots of people who've been recently or very late diagnosed with things, right? Who've decided that, do you know what? And I'm one of them. I'm not, I'm not putting myself out of context there, who decide, you know what I want to do is educate other people. I'm now going to sell my wares as a consultant or a trainer or an educator. I'm going to teach people about it. Now, that's all well and good. If you have got no experience, not just of writing and creating and curating content, if you have got no experience of how to deliver content meaningfully and how to engage people and how to know whether you've met your own aims and objectives, right? Let alone anything else. What people are going to get is very long, very obtuse, very, very passionate in some cases, courses that they'll walk away from and go, I don't know what I was supposed to get from that. I don't know what the message is, but it was lovely, right?
It was a talk.
Yeah. There's lots of training that is talks.
That's what a lot of training ends up, and I think that's why even when I teach it, and you've seen the way I do it, it's about giving people some scaffolding so that actually that passion, that knowledge, that whatever else is about giving them some scaffolding to make them great at that. So, like, you're good at that, but we can make you great because we're giving you that scaffolding, because a talk is not the same as training.
But that's something that you've learned in this journey for yourself as well. Okay. I'm going to say that this is something that you've had to come, unfortunately, to the realization of as well, which is that, in an ideal world, you say to all of those people, there is a course out here. You can go and do it with me. When you go and do it with me, you learn how to do this stuff, right? So you learn the stuff, the scaffolding stuff that you need in order to do this stuff more effectively. But people do come with that baggage of education wasn't for me. It really, it kind of stuffed me up a little bit. I'm actually at this point of life now. Do I really want to go back and do a qualification? The whole idea of sitting an exam or anything else is terrifying to me. I still have nightmares about when I did my A-levels, and I'm 50 something now. There's all of that sitting behind it. And actually, where you've got to now, which has come out of those hard conversations that we've had to have with people where they've pushed back and said, well, yeah, but perhaps I don't need that, is actually what you're now offering them is, I'm not saying you have to do that bit, but what I have got is the skills that can fill in some of the gaps for you, right? So wherever you're coming at it from, whether it's, literally one day I was thrown into being a trainer. I kind of bumbled along and learned how to do it. And, now I'm pretty good at it, and I'm now feeling a bit more confident about myself. But still, I haven't ever had somebody come alongside me and go, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Right? You can offer those bits to them. If somewhere then along that journey, they then feel more confident in the academic side of, if you like, of training, and you can then encourage them, because they are feeling more confident in that, to then go and turn that into a qualification. You're in a good position to do that, because at that point you've won their trust that actually what you're not going to do is ram a qualification down their throat. And
yeah, I agree.
And you've really learnt that.
I think it has, and it's been a long journey with it. And I suppose it's because when you know that you do something, and again, Matt, you've seen the way I do it, and Graham, you've seen that. I think it's a bit of a blessing and a curse when I put the teacher bit on there, because I kind of feel like I need to put it on there because I need people to see that I am qualified to be able to teach those qualifications should people want them. But also I have done that stuff. But also, I kind of want to say to people, but I'm also a teacher that failed their A-levels, hated their degree, struggled with everything. and actually I'm going to do it in a way that works. So Emma, I was just on her podcast, and she said, her friend said, what are you going to do after your degree? She said, it was never anything I thought I'd do my psychology degree. She said, but people have said, what are you going to do? And I said, oh, you should teach. I think it'd be great. And she said, would I? I said, come and do it. She said, can I? And when we came off air, she said, I would do it with you because I feel like I can trust you and I feel safe. And it's been quite a long journey for me to get to there. I think it's because I just assume, and that's a really bad word, that's where people would be at with me with that. But there's a question I've got here for you, Matt. Graham, I don't think I've really I've sort of had this conversation. So can you tell me why? You may be able to, you may not. So people don't feel the need. Okay. You can be a trainer because you just can. As you said, there's a lot of people that are just thrown into it. And I absolutely love those people I get on my courses. They're like, been doing it for ages. They walk away and they're like, thank you so much. And I start off by saying, look, you will get a lot from this regardless. It could just be that you say, thank you, I now feel more confident when I deliver. Or it may be that you've given me something to deliver with, because they may have nothing to deliver with. So either way, I'm here to take you on whatever journey you need to go on, really. If you get the bit of paper at the end, great. But, if you don't. Okay, so people are quite, if they have to come on my course, so that's as it is, mostly they have to. Why is it that organisations will pay a very bare minimum for people to do that now, like 250 quid for an A level? That's what it is. Why is it that people will chuck thousands and thousands on becoming a coach? Do you know this? Because literally, people will spend thousands on learning to be a coach from a program that could have just been any, and you know, Matt, as well as I do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there. Some's great, some debatable. What is the
What's the magic? What's the magic behind it?
Because, right, you're not going to like this answer, right? Because behind that investment of whatever it is, whoever's course they choose, behind that is the promise of being able to make £100 an hour, £200 an hour. I've heard of coaches qualifying and charging upwards of £300, £400, £500 an hour. Yes. That's why they see that as better money, better spent. And that's why, if you say, but you also need the ability to teach as well as coach, they say, no, I don't. Now, does it matter? And yes, I know the conversation that you and I had and 2 years ago, I think, where this all sort of blew up and people running courses got very uppity, right, and pious and almost very Dunning-Kruger, if I'm honest, to say, I don't need to know how to teach. I don't need a teaching qualification because I've got this experience and I've written this course and and all the results and all the feedback is wonderful. And well, look, if I had 100 friends, it'd be a start. But, if I set up a course and asked 100 of my mates to leave me a Google review and tell me it was wonderful, guess what? My Google reviews would look amazing as well. And then other people would think, well, that looks amazing, I'll do that, and so on, right? So the reason is because money sells. They will invest a four-figure sum because they think they can make a four-figure sum every couple of days once they've done it. Now, does every coach make four figures every couple of days? Probably not, right? Are there a number who feel like the course they did was misrepresented, wasn't taught very well? Yes. Have I spoken to many of them, right, who I may have friendly way tried to have said, are you sure that's the course for you? I'd recommend this one. Yes, I know it costs more and takes 12 months, but trust me on this. Who've eventually gone, yeah, I did that. That was a waste of my X amount of thousands of pounds. I'm now doing this one because I can see what you were saying. Okay, sorry I couldn't get there sooner, right? But that's why. And so people don't see the course you do as being as relevant as it should be because the promise of what's beyond it, right? Unfortunately, it's what's in it for me, right?
Well,
and what's in it for me isn't the sexy "I'm now an ADHD coach" label.
Yeah,
I was actually going to ask you, Marianne. I was going to ask both of you. Here's the question that frames this lovely. Okay.
Thank you for that, Matt, by the way.
It's really, really good.
Conversations we've had. I'm not a very good salesman, really. That's what it is.
No. Right. What is the biggest video platform in the world?
YouTube?
Yes. Right. And what is the fastest growing social media platform that houses video in the world? TikTok.
Sure.
Yeah, TikTok. Okay. Right. And both of those have grown a culture, because this is the other part of this. There's a culture thing happening as well, right? Both of those have grown a culture of people believing, right, that for the minimum amount of work during the day, for the minimum amount of hours spent, they can create an income, right?
Yes.
And so where does this culture about coaching come from that then allows people to go, you need to just invest this and then you're into the revenue stream? It's there in every system that we are perpetuating into the world, right? Everybody that's on YouTube, right? All the kids now, right? It's like, are you gonna what career do you want to do? Oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to do YouTube creative. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. That's a career choice now, right? Because they can see somebody doing this.
Now, here's a question for you then. Before I answer you, Graham, how many of them do you think the kids that go, I'm going to be a YouTuber, how many of them do you think, whether it's themselves or through their parents, get any professional media training? Get any training in how to, close your fingers a bit more, I reckon, pal, right? So how many of them know how to use a microphone? How many of them know how to use a camera? How many of them know how to present when there's no one there? How many of them know how to make content engaging? And the answer is none. There's a great sort of Instagram account. He's everywhere to follow. I think it's Alima Amiga. And he does lots of videos that are just titled "Not Everyone Should Have a Podcast."
Yep.
And, his shtick is looking at these people and going, you really shouldn't have a microphone. Nobody needs to see that. Right now, okay, I'm not trying to burst anyone's bubble or say nobody should have a dream and nobody should want to be like, fine. But there is a disconnect between, as you would know coming from radio, right? Media, because that's what you're talking about now, right? Media, forgive my language, is bloody difficult to crack, right? It is really hard. And by the way, the minute you put yourself, even the minute you dip the corner of your little toenail into the world of being a media personality, you are free fodder for the world to take a shot at you and tell you your crap and to shoot you down, and right? Yeah. So who gets that resilience coaching as well? But the promise of, I've just made 50 quid off that video, I've just made £1,000, and all the Muppet influencers saying, oh, this video just made me £10,000. Yeah, sure. No, it didn't, right? But there you go. Right? Because of that, people believe it, right? Now, unfortunately, you could draw the same parallel with people setting up as menopause coaches, ADHD coaches, wellness coaches, fitness coaches, any other topic that somebody goes, life's been a bit crap, I haven't been as successful as I want, I'll do that instead, right? It doesn't work like that, and I think that's the reality, right? And I could ask you this because I know you'll have an answer for it, right? If you did outside broadcasts, live broadcasts at any point during your career, right?
Yep.
Honestly, how many times do you know you died on stage? How many times do you know you walked off going, where's the hole? Swallow me up. I never want to be seen in this town again, right? Because I guarantee it will have happened at least once, because it happens to the best of us. Right?
Listen, I can tell you some really great stories about it now. I do you know what? One of the things that I think is really funny about that is that, and that is why I'm going to come back to this bit. That is why experience matters, right? In all of these things, 100%, because
you've got to die to know how not to.
When you've gone through that and you've done that, that gives you the stories to then talk about, which are actually great entertainment and are funny and are worth talking about. So I can tell you, like, the time that somebody sent me up I'm scared of heights, sent me up an abseiling rig to interview somebody, and then it was a prank and they didn't let me down, and I had to abseil off the end of this thing whilst interviewing somebody, and it was awful. And it, the only person that got egg on their face that day was me, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you about the day I spent on a train in the middle of Newcastle, going round and round on the metro with Pudsey Bear.
Yeah.
And it was pretty awful. But there we go. The thing is, everybody that's got to that point in radio has probably died 100 times on air.
Right.
And now they can talk about that.
Right. Now, hold on a minute, but here's the follow-up point, right? That is your memory. You might be able to go and find the recording clips somewhere if somebody did it, but the issue now is the minute you put something online, it stays there. It can be found forever. Now, for some people, that's great because look how far I've come and look how much I improved, and that's wonderful. For others, that's the beginning and the end of your career on training course 1, video 1, podcast. What, you're done because people have just gone, I wouldn't listen to that again if you paid me, or that was a car crash or whatever, right? The point I'm trying to make is there is a skill set to all of this. Yes. Right? Teaching, training, coaching, speaking, presenting, there is a skill set to it that I would say most people don't have.
That's what I think we're missing there. And I wonder if that's the coach thing. It's like people see themselves like needing a framework, if you see what I mean. And the odd thing is, I said before, I can't coach. And I'm like, you absolutely can, Marianne, because you've got the skills to do it, which is ironic. But that's because I've got the teaching skills to be able to do it. What I tend to say to people when they do stuff with me, whether it is because they do the qualification or not, actually what I'm doing for them, and I think this is what you've been talking about there really, is that what I find people leave and they say to me, I now know that I can go and do whatever I do with intention, but also I know full well that if people have only picked stuff up on the fly because they've been chucked in at the deep end, I know full well, because it doesn't scare me to be put into any situation because I've got that toolbox right there, which is those skills. I know that people that have picked it up along the way, I can say to them, I bet every time you finish, you go, thank God, I've got through that. I said, but actually, when you know that like, each time you do it, you go, thank God for that, because what would I have done if? However, when you've got the skills to know what to do if, you're going to go into that not worrying, because really you've either got to not get it right and then work backwards, or know how to just do it and then go, actually, I know, but also this went well because of this, but it also didn't go well because of that.
Well, that's right. There's the humility. The most important thing is being able to own when it didn't go well, own your mistakes, actually be humble enough to learn from them, right? Be able to take negative feedback or criticism or an absolute panning if that's what you deserve, right? And not have an RSD chip on your shoulder and go, oh, woe is me. And Absolutely. To go, why? But,
why did I?
That is not the norm, right? That isn't the norm. But there's other skill sets that are missing, right? Now, we spoke about this before you press record. So there am I teaching a client 2 weeks ago, 26 people, no cameras on. Yes, as you said. And I'm told, look, we can't turn the cameras on. The bandwidth is really crap in the office. If anyone turns the camera on, the link will get lost. It's a nightmare. okay, but this is a full day, 7-hour course that's supposed to be interactive, and it's kind of right. I don't mind that. I'm like you, Graham. I'm used to this. I've spoken to myself more times than I care to remember. I know what to do, how to do it. The first message I get after 7 hours is an email from someone who says, Matt, I need to tell you this. I never sit through an entire training course without getting bored. I have got the attention of a squirrel. My wife would tell me that. And I have just been gripped for 7 hours. That was the most interesting, engaging thing I've ever seen. And I don't know how you did it, not being able to see any of us. Now, that's not me being smug. That's because I've bloody practiced. I've done it and I've done it and I've done it. And when I've got it wrong and somebody said, you know what, we could tell you were a bit, I take it on the chin. Right.
But you've also been able to identify why, because like I say to people, I have to go and teach in the prison. I know full well there's going to be limitations to what I can do, not because of me, but because I'm teaching in a situation where I have got those limits. So do you know what? I don't blame me. I walk out and I go do my best in a situation I had, but I know that if people aren't equipped with that, they will blame themselves. And I say, well, actually, it could be you. Once you know what you know, you can actually go back to your manager and say, do you know what? I couldn't do my best because you didn't give me what I needed.
So that leads me on to tools, and I'm going to ask you both a question then, because I think this is where the training and teaching thing comes in. I see an awful lot of, people saying delivering training or education is not just PowerPoint. It's not just a presentation. Now, I know back in the day, I was given a lever arch folder with a load of slides that I had to show people. Nowadays, it's a PowerPoint online, whatever it may be, right? There are some people that can do something with that. There are some people that can't. When I taught speed awareness courses, it was the same slides in the same order with the same script. For the same duration, by the way, each slide was timed to the second, and you were marked on it, right? Okay, I didn't stick to it. I changed script that then stuck because that's the way I am. But I could do that and still keep people's attention because I've developed that skill set. It's the same online now. What's interesting is, I remember when COVID started and everyone's suddenly going, oh my God, I've got to do my job online and I've got to make it interesting. Because I was still in the magic world, sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out at that point. There was a guy, Italian guy, whose name I can't remember, who was a magician and a computer programmer. And he developed some software that made anyone's Zoom the most interesting, engaging thing you'd ever seen. So he could change who was on screen. He could do all these things, right? And he made a fortune selling it. What was interesting was, and it was never any sales pitch, and it never will be, right? Anyone can get that software. It won't make your presentation good. Because if you can't use those tools naturally and natively, if you don't know how to set things up, if you don't know how to be able to present without having to look down at that button you need to press to change your camera angle because you don't know where it is, right? All of that. If you can't do that, don't use the bloody technology because it's just distracting. It's not engaging. If you can use it, and you can be engaging, if you know what to do, right, and you can make it work, great. I don't believe everyone can. I don't believe everyone has that ability to do that. But I also don't believe everyone's willing to admit that, right? And that's, again, part of the problem. You've got to have the ability to admit your limitations.
It's so true. I say this on the training. I say to people, don't feel that you've got to use stuff purely because you feel like you've got to. Because you know what, like you say, it's also reading your audience. I know that if you're going out to teach some carers in a care home, the likelihood is you haven't got the tech. Like literally, you're not going to have the tech, right? And if you start using tech, like phones and stuff, it's highly likely the people you're teaching haven't. So if you don't read your room, then it's all going to fall flat. Do you know what? I sometimes sit there and think, people say I do what I do really well, but you know what? I don't use stuff. But you know what? I use the best thing ever, which is me. Like, literally, I have a PowerPoint because I know that I have to have stuff to follow because it's a qualification and it helps me focus. So when people say death by PowerPoint, I say, but no, the PowerPoint is like the canvas you're hanging it on. So actually, really, what should happen is in my courses, my PowerPoint is my canvas. Everything else I do is the other stuff, whether it is pair work, whether it's a discussion, whether it's a video. That isn't the thing. It's what's holding it together. But that's because otherwise I go off piste. Oh, we lost you, Matt.
I'm still there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're on
no,
there.
you're still there all the time.
Here's the thing, right? So you say that, but when I'm delivering to a room full of blank faces,
Oh, absolutely.
as much for me, right, as for anyone else, I will, if I'm using PowerPoint, I will make it interesting for me, right? I've got a little gadget at my left hand here that if I want, I can change screens, I can put things on screen, I can take them off, I can have me there, I can have me here in a heartbeat. Now I do that because it A is interesting for my eyes, but B, because I know even if somebody's not on camera, I've just got their attention. It's a bit like a camera cut on a TV studio, right? It's getting people's attention without saying I'm getting your attention, right? And keeping their attention. And every now and again, somebody goes, "How did you do that?" You know, well, that's a Matt, well done. You're not screen sharing. Why? How are you doing that? Oh, you know, I'm a geek is my line. I'm just a geek. I'm just playing. Right. That for me is a tool to A, make sure they're still there. B, make sure that they're still engaged. B, make sure that C, make sure they remember. It's D, keep it interesting for me. Right. But the PowerPoint, like you say, I call them placeholders, like you call them a canvas. They're there to help. I'm the content. I'm delivering it.
That gives me that focus, but also it will with learners. Like I say, if I'm doing content, people, I have to know that they've got, because I have to make sure, because I have to. I think that's the difference between a trainer quite often, is that with a trainer, you don't have to necessarily put certain things in, if you see what I mean. I will explain things in a different way, but I have to see that because often I'll give them it as a resource anyway. But that's where I think there's the difference. There's a slight difference in that, but also I think the more seamless it is, the more like if people feel comfortable and they're not worried about what's going to happen then that it's because they feel comfortable, that they weren't worried about what was going to happen if. We've all seen trainers that work where they literally are, everything has to be done like this, and that you can see them moving things on, and you're like, that's because you haven't got the confidence to be able to. I've gone part way through and thought, God, I've just missed out. I should have gone back, and I haven't, and I've literally had to carry on. Because I know my stuff to know.
Oh, well, all right. So you've preempted a question there, but this goes back to the studio environment a bit for me. And by the way, nice text, nice scroll. That goes back to the question of when it goes wrong, right? When something doesn't work, or it doesn't work as you expect, or the power goes down, or the slides don't work. Right, for me, it goes back to that word you use, Graham, which is experience. Experience is being able to carry on, not flap, to still be able to deliver. And also, if you're a one-man studio, like I very often am, and I'm sure you are, to problem solve on the fly and to get it back and to have backups, right? Yep. So I always have two cameras. Right, I have my main camera. I have a backup camera that doesn't require power. Right, I have two microphone sources. Why? Because as you know, right, there's Graham. Right, there you go. Why? Because when one goes down, and it will at some point, it's a press of the button and the stream deck that he's got, right, to make it turn on to the second one, and it's seamless and it's professional and it's right. That takes a different ability.
Absolutely, and I think that's where, for me, see, I would absolutely own. I don't like doing this. I don't like teaching. I will do it, and I'm fine. But I will absolutely own the fact that I am much, much better if I was teaching face to face, because I'm going to be more confident. I will deal with those other situations, but I know that I'm going to deal with face to face situations far better. And I think sometimes people just need to own what they do well and do what they do well. Because
and on that note, and you both will know this, and I think everyone sensibly knows this, there are some people who are brilliant face to face who cannot engage, maintain concentration, or present or train or deliver well online because they're nervous, or they don't like the sound of their own voice on camera, or they don't like seeing it, right? They are just not able to. Not everybody can. Vice versa. Some people hate standing in a room of people. They're better behind a screen because I've got a physical barrier, right? You've got to own that, and you've got to be honest about that, and you've got to be able to be comfortable and know how that changes your delivery. Right. I can use the same slides for the same course, and it will always be slightly different in person. It will always be slightly different in person than it will online, right? If I've got 3 people online on a training course, does that change the intensity and the way I deliver it and the engagement and the passion? Do I go, oh God, I've only got 3 people, oh, I can't be asked? No, they probably get more. They probably get more energy and more enthusiasm and more of me, because I want them to stay with me, than if I've got a room full of 20 or 30, right? That takes experience and ability and the knowledge of how do I do that. Not everyone can or really should be doing that and charging professional fees for a professional service.
I think that's my point, is it's as minute you start charging for stuff.
Do you know what though?
You're going to say we're going to.
Well, I was going to say you should charge for stuff when people will pay, and that's what people are doing though. Right?
They are.
Let's be fair about it. Why not charge if someone's going to pay for it, right? But ultimately, it comes back down to this: are you prepared to, however much you're charging, and at whatever stage you're at, are you prepared to put yourself together with a team of people? And I'm bringing this back round to what you've set up now. Are you prepared to put yourself with a team of people that can help you improve that? Right? I'm going to give you a quick example of this to kind of finish off today, because I know we're already over now, and I'm watching that. But one of the first people I ever interviewed on radio was Cliff Richard, right? And just before I got in a camper van, we're all going on with Cliff Richard to do an interview with him.
It's a story about Cliff.
I interviewed this band who were literally straight out of nappies, and they thought they could be idiots on air, and they were idiots on air. And he was listening to this interview as well, and they were trying to say no when they should be saying yes, and they were trying to like not say things when they shouldn't be, and they were being as awkward. But I kept my composure, and I just kept going through it, and I made them look idiots, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I got on there, he said, he said, the trouble is with young people today. End of it, Cliff. Hey, the trouble is with young people today is they don't get any media training, is the first thing he said. And then he started talking about when he first started and he was doing the stuff, and he was like, he had to go on shows with Elvis Presley and stuff like that. He had the media training. He was taught how to be interviewed as well as how to respond to interview questions, and have like something up his sleeve that he could talk about if like the interviewer wasn't very good, that have a little story to bring out that would be quite entertaining for people. He learned all of that. That's why he was always, I've talked about him like he's dead. He's not, he's still going, Sir Cliff. But that's why he was always, when he was on telly, whatever, always the consummate professional. Whether you like him or not or whatever, he was always the consummate professional, because he'd been taught to be that. Right. And we see it with some of our young musicians of today. Right. And they're actually now being taught as well quite cleverly bring your mistakes. Just going back to what Matt was saying earlier about, these days, if you make a mistake and whatever, someone's going to bring it out and they're going to absolutely hang you up to dry for it. They're being taught, bring your mistakes to the table before anyone else does. So it's an intelligent thing when someone like Ed Sheeran appears on the Jonathan Ross show and gets his phone out and go, you know what? When like people say to me all of the time, like, you must have been born with a great gift, etc.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, listen to this. And then he plays him early songs where he's screeching away. He's being intelligent there because he's owning that.
Yeah. He's before anyone weaponizes it.
He's putting that into the public before anyone else can do anything with it. Right?
Yes.
But you know what? The only reason any of these people do all of this is because they have a great team around them of people that can give them advice about what else you can do to get better. And that's true.
You're right, Graham. I couldn't agree with you more. And it goes back to Marianne, exactly right. To have the right team around you, it requires knowing what everyone's job is and what their purpose is and what that will do for you. Now, you might not understand what that person's job title is. You might not understand what it can do for you, but if you trust that they do, or someone who is saying, honestly, you need this does, right, and you put your faith in them, you will, like Ed Sheeran, know that having that video constantly on your phone to show before anyone else prevents you getting panned. If you are a new trainer, a new coach, it doesn't matter what you are, if you are trying to teach something else, and you haven't got the experience, rather than opening yourself up to an onslaught of Trustpilot reviews, right? Seeking out Marianne, spending the time with her to get the training so that you don't flap, so that you know how to lean on your resources, so that you don't get to the end of the day going, that's over. You get to the end of the day going, actually, I'm really good at this. I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah. That's called a sound investment, right? The problem is, and it goes back to that point I was trying to make earlier on, that message needs to be wrapped up in and as loud as the sexy message of, hey, train as a coach and you'll make 4 figures a week in 3 months, right? Yeah. No, we know it shouldn't be buried, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we are. I mean, and thank you for that. And, this week we've had a conversation and I had to walk away to Graham and go, okay, I know that I do what I do well. I'm not arrogant, but if it means I've got to massage egos, I'm literally going to have to do that. If it means saying to people, you've got these skills, but I'm going to make you better, then actually, if it gets people to where they need to be, I've just got to come at it from a distant angle. Because you know what? I've got bills to pay as well. And I actually want to do what I do well. And if I can't do it one way, I'll just do it in another way.
It's like I say, I think Graham's analogy of the right team around you is right. We've all just watched the Winter Olympics. It doesn't matter what sport you watched, right? Behind every athlete is an army of people. And there are some people that if you knew why they were there, you go, why do you need them? What are they there for? You've got somebody who tightens your skis. Can't you do that yourself? No. Right? You got somebody that's going to put you in the right mindset before you get on the slope. Yes, I am. I've got someone that, right. So your positioning, like any of ours, is making sure people understand that by investing in education, they become a better educator. By investing in teacher training, they become a better teacher. Right? It's about it being a good investment, not a competition. And I think that's the issue. Everything is so competitive now. Everyone is trying to make their own way. Everyone wants to be the next big thing. And I think the danger is when everyone wants to be the next big thing, people forget that it's always been the case for me. It's more important to be good. Yeah. It's more important to be a good thing, to deliver a good service and a good product. And if you need education and support to do that, you really should have the ability and the humility to invest in that. If you
Absolutely.
can't, that says more about you.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Matt. I really needed to. Well, yeah, because it is that. I think, like you say, it is that competition, and I think it's a tough one when you just want to do what you do. You don't want to do it for this or that or the other. You just want to do because actually you want to make the difference. So, thank you.
Yeah.
There you go. And I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to wrap it up with this.
Thank you.
If you want a little bit of Marianne on your team, you can have it now. She has created the Source of the Sauce, which is the title of this podcasty thing that we're putting out, but it's also the title of her community, which she set up and is now ready for with a waiting list. You can dive into a little bit of Marianne each month. You can get more and more of her. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So the Source of the Sauce is there. There is a waiting list. We will put that waiting list out with this so that you can get on board with that. Okay. And if you want good people in your team, get good people in your team. It's a simple analogy, really, but it works, right? None of us that are sitting around here today talking to you would be anywhere without the people who helped us along the way. And I still want to say,
was it tech?
I still want to say, however much he helped me at the time, Rick Waitman, you still stole my jelly babies. Thanks. We will be back. Yeah. What's a jelly baby amongst friends? We will be back with another Source of the Sauce sometime soon. But until then, from all of us here, take it easy out there and come and check out the Source of the Sauce community. You know, you might just find that you've got what you're looking for there. Bye for now.